It is 6:00, March 18th, 2025. I am the superintendent calling the meeting to order for the purpose of reorganization of the board. I will first take nominations for the role of board chair for the upcoming year. It is this year, according to the JMA, this role alternates, so it is a Barnstead board member to be nominated.
I'll nominate Jason.
A second.
A nomination and a second for Jason Henry to serve as JMA board chair. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, by voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Chair.
I don't need two microphones. All right, so next up is nominations for vice chair, and this year is Alton's turn.
I'd like to nominate Lauren.
I'd like to nominate Ann. No seconds.
I'll second
You
Ann.
accept it. I mean, do you want it?
Well, since it's been seconded, we could discuss, right? Because one of you, you guys need to think about Alton chair and co-chair, so.
I just was caught off guard. I was thinking about something not my name, and so I agree. I think that would be better for you to take this,
Okay,
and we'll deal with Alton.
perfect.
Okay.
It's fine with me.
Any other nominations? Any other discussion? All in favor, Ann as vice chair? Aye. Abstention during that? Okay. You're vice chair. You don't have to move with this meeting.
I'll stay here tonight. I'm planted.
Nomination board secretary. Barnstead member.
I nominate Brandy.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I'll
A
second.
second?
Is there any other nominations? Seeing none, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Now, committee assignments are in our packet, right? Correct. I think what we'll do is let people kind of digest what they are, and then if there's ones that you're hot to trot would like to be on, if you could send an email to Deb, and at next meeting, that can we can have them all together and discuss who wants to be on those. Does that make sense? Instead of trying to hash out right here. I mean, some people are new and kind of like probably an opportunity to look what they are. If that works, okay, then move to the next meeting. And Deb, you okay with that? They'll email you?
I'm fine, yes,
All
thank
right,
you.
I appreciate that. With that being said, next up on our list is Pledge Allegiance to the flag. I ask you all to please stand. Join me.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And it's going to be hard for you to kick me if I mess up from there, but that's okay. I'll do the best I can.
I'll throw something at you.
Next up is a roll call. We'll start down here with Eric. Eric Wardell.
Brandy Pelletier.
Christy Wood.
Eunice Landry.
David Latcho.
Paul Borsch. Jason Henry.
Tim Broderick.
Heidi Duper.
Doreen Wittenberg.
Lauren.
We'll get somebody new.
Eliza Jolie.
Ann Pierce.
Wyatt Marnie.
We have two new board members. It's all good. All right, thank you. First, next up on our agenda is public input.
My name is Kim Pika. Welcome to our new board members. I was planning on coming up here without a scripted speech, but I know my public speaking skills aren't amazing, so I'm just going to read what I have to say. I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to the staff at Prospect Mountain High School. As parents, once our kids move on from middle school, we don't always get the opportunity to recognize the incredible educators and staff who play such a vital role in shaping their future. Reflecting on my own high school experience, I don't recall ever meeting with my guidance counselor or having in-depth discussions with teachers about my future. I simply picked a major and went to college without a clear end goal. However, at Prospect Mountain, I see a completely different experience for my daughters, one that is truly preparing them for college and their careers in a way I never had. Last year, I faced an unexpected personal obligation that made it difficult for me to dedicate the time I wanted to help my oldest daughter in preparing for her dual enrollment courses in college planning. But I never had to pick up the phone and ask the school for help. The support was already there. Her guidance counselor and teachers had already stepped in, ensuring she had the guidance she needed to make informed decisions about her classes and future goals. Now, with my youngest daughter just beginning her journey as a freshman, I am experiencing that same level of dedication and support from her guidance counselor, teachers, administrators, and support staff. It is truly reassuring as a parent to know that my children are surrounded by educators who genuinely care about their success, both academically and personally. I am beyond grateful for the opportunities Prospect Mountain provides and for the incredible staff who go above and beyond to prepare our kids for the future. My daughters are so lucky to be part of such a supportive and forward-thinking school community. Thank you.
Kim, thank you. Any chance we can get a copy of that so that maybe we can give it to the teachers? I think that's awesome.
What's that?
Any chance we can get a copy of that, maybe that give out to the teachers or, you know?
Absolutely.
So if you want, if you're willing to part with that one, we'll give it to Deb over there. I think it's great. Appreciate it. And you did public speaking just fine, Kim. All right, next up is agenda review. I'll take a motion on that.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Is there any other additions, subtractions that is not on here that we need to put on? Seeing none and hearing none. All in favor of the agenda as presented?
Aye.
All right. Next is approval of meeting minutes of February 18th, 2025.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of February 18th, 2025.
Second.
Discussions, corrections, concerns on it? Seeing none, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
1, 2. Doreen, are you abstaining at this?
Yes.
Yep. 3 abstentions?
I was writing something.
No, it's okay.
I wasn't paying attention, I apologize.
It's all good. Just Deb's way over there. Make sure you
Is
get
that part of the table?
I know. 3 things at once, yeah.
Let's see. Next up is the financial reports by Heidi. Heidi, you want to give us a brief overview of anything you want to let us know?
One of the things I would ask tonight is to appoint a treasurer. As you know, our longtime treasurer has retired permanently. And with the election, Hillary Henry has been elected another year in Barnstead, so I'm asking the board to elect her as Prospect Mountain's treasurer. We need a treasurer.
Could we do it now?
I'll make a
We
motion
asked them, and the new treasurer just elected in Alton is not excited to also take on the high school. And Hillary has told us she's willing.
Yes.
So I make a motion to nominate Hillary Henry as the PMHS treasurer?
School treasurer.
School treasurer, thank you.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
Thank you. If anyone has any questions on the expense report, I can answer them. It hasn't changed much since last month, so.
Look at you, you usually have questions. You good, okay?
Now, last month, though, I was looking at the minutes, and you had talked about some capital improvements that we've made in the budget.
Unfortunately, we didn't make it in time to advertise in the newspaper we have to hold a public hearing.
Okay.
We are working on that. You will have a public hearing next month.
Do you know roughly what the total amount is?
I don't, not off the top of my head. I really don't.
I mean,
It was the capital improvement.
we've only talked about it 5 times, right? It was supposed to be not more than $126,000, give or take.
Right.
Okay. I wasn't at the last meeting.
Yeah, no, this goes back to a year ago, December, and then again in the spring, and just all the capital planning. So this is the capital projects, including the gym floor and other stuff. The lighting that you, if you were here early enough, you saw more work being done up front.
Any other questions? So we move on. We move on to the principal's report.
All right. What you see in the beginning are some updates. I actually put these updates together for a staff meeting that we had a week and a half ago. I think it's important for us to constantly have a baseline. And a couple of standouts is you see some good progress continuing past the halfway point at about 70%, right, of the school year, 65, 70%. So you see a positive trend with regard to referrals, and you see a positive trend with regard to suspensions. Throughout the year, I periodically give memos that I put in the important links for staff towards the end of the packet, and I put a couple of related such memos in there. Policy guidance really is another way to think of them for out-of-school actions, and as a school administrator, particularly as the principal, reasonable suspicion and matters related to that. And those are two topics that come up, obviously, in a high school, so it's important to make sure they're in the same conversation when you're talking about attendance and higher level referrals. The other thing I put in there is some attendance data, and if you look at that, you're seeing a positive trend, to put it bluntly, with kids coming to school more, and that's precisely what we want. So we're hoping to keep this progress going in the right direction. And underneath the numbers on the absences, which I've shared several times this year, but a couple of the updates this year with regard to ongoing professional practices, which are all different, but they're all similar because they involve supervision and or interactions with students. And I keep saying this over and over again, and I'll say it as much as I possibly can. You can't do one giant thing to change the culture of the school. You got to do 15 to 25 small things, and in aggregate, they can make a difference. So that's constantly what we're trying to do. A little bit goes a long way, and I think so far we're trending in the right direction. Earlier this school year, I put a message out to all students. I put it on the monitors in the hallway, and we got an application. I met with that student, I spoke to the student's parent, I talked with Wyatt, and that student is Jude Dumond. He is currently a sophomore. Wonderful student, wonderful young man, but he is going to be, he accepted the responsibility to be next year's student representative to replace our beloved but graduating Mr. Varney. So he can't stay forever. I'm sure he would love to come back from college and join these meetings. But we're also happy that another student was willing to volunteer and step up, because it is a lot of work. So that's an exciting update. And as you guys hopefully are used to seeing now, some good news stuff, which we did at our last Good News Assembly. I will just say that packet speaks for itself. I think my favorite picture is the girls' hockey team. But you should, if you haven't looked through it, it's definitely worth taking a few minutes to look through that. It speaks for itself. Student of the month, staff member of the month, it's all good stuff. The last thing that I want to add, and I think it's important that the school board has a brief opportunity to weigh in on this. It's not in my packet. But first, before I share a quick thing, does anybody have any questions about anything just discussed, covered? Okay, well, if you think of one, feel free to interrupt me, I'm used to it. Quick conversation topic for the board to bring up. We had a request for the students going on the senior class trip, if it would be appropriate and okay for them to use the Barnstead and/or Alton Central School vans in addition to our high school vans. And the reason why I think it's important for you all to consider that is because, as you know, that's obviously another district. And so what Tim and I and Heidi want to know is how much detail do you want us to go into when it comes to tracking who's borrowing what, who's paying for what, so on and so forth. Or do you want us to just be able to allow the other district to borrow a van from another district?
So when the senior class, like the robotics club has in the past, goes on a trip, if they rent vans, they'll spend around $1,000 to $1,200 per van renting them. The high school, the JMA, owns 2 vans. The number of students they expect on the senior class trip would require 3. So they can fundraise or pay and rent an additional van. They'll use the 2 we own, and they could rent an additional van for somewhere between $1,000 and $1,200. And our 2 elementary schools' vans will sit that weekend and do nothing. Or we could find a way, and we're asking you this hopefully once, and once we know how you feel, we'll have a way of doing it. There are a lot of ways we could do it. Heidi's office, because of the unique way we are structured here, that nobody ever intended, but we took 3 districts that are separate districts, and we're trying to run with as much synchronicity as possible. The folks in Heidi's office spend a lot of time invoicing each other. We send bills from one district, one SAU to the other every day, just about, very often, to account for these sorts of things. We can do that. We can set a value on using a van, and we can have the JMA, the high school, pay one of the elementary schools for the use of that van. And this comes down to what you're comfortable with. This is why it's a question for all of you. We can ask, I can ask, you can ask Heidi and the folks in her office to kind of just, when this happens, do it on an equitable basis and make sure that it's not always Barnstead or always Alton. And don't make us send bills to each other, but that could create issues in the community or among all of you that it's only fair to ask you. Does that all make sense?
Just my 2 cents. I mean, perhaps we're on Barnstead, but I'd be happy to let them borrow, because I would hope it's in perpetuity going backwards to at least the Barnstead coming back to us when we need another van or so, like, because there are plenty of times we could use it.
I agree.
So-
I would rather see the kids
It's cheaper.
save money.
If this were a regional cooperative school district, they'd all be owned by the district, and we wouldn't be asking about this. It would just happen. But we're not.
I think especially if there's nothing if there's no, nothing is planned, then I don't see why.
That'd be coordinated out of the central office, so that way nothing was.
We would take care of it, yeah. But you need to be comfortable. I mean, this is one of those things, sometimes you'll ask, do we need to vote? I need you to nod, right? This is one of those things where if we're doing it routinely, we just want to know that you're okay with it. And if you're not, we have other ways we can do it. We can track every dollar.
Yeah, I think it's fine as long as we're just rotating back and forth between all the Barnstead.
I think at the end of the year, I might like to see
A breakdown, a
at the end of the year, I might like to see a breakdown, how many
Yeah.
times other schools were used or shared, just because, so we know what it looks like.
I mean,
So that's just for me.
Are elementary schools really utilizing the vans as much as our high school students? Don't they need it more?
I do have updates for the 2 boards at your meetings about what's going on with the elementary schools vans. We've been advertising for a very important role that's going to help us maximize the use of those, but it wouldn't stop something like this, a weekend trip.
Okay.
Makes sense.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, also, I mean, the opportunity could arise and the reverse could happen.
Absolutely. I mean, we
One of the
can,
local districts
we
needs-
can manage equity. That's something we can handle, right? We can kind of keep track of what's been used where and, to your point, just provide a report and ensure that this is being done, so that wear and tear is essentially equalized as best we can.
Yeah.
It does, and I'm sure I'm not the only one in the room, you know, for the kids to have to come up with $1,100 to, you know, rent a van while we have one sitting in a parking lot.
Well, I
Seems,
think this board has always shown we've been good, even trying to find money when we can for different trips. And if there's an opportunity, I'm speaking for myself, an opportunity for them to save money, and we have a means to do it, I think it's great.
thank you.
Here's
Thanks,
your
Dave, for
answer.
bringing that.
That's all I have.
Anybody else have any questions for the principal? Going once, going twice. All right, next up is building and grounds report, which is in our packet. Heidi, do you want to speak to that at all? or- Nope. Parking lots are still underway.
They were out there today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the pumps are done, we have water.
yeah, that was a 3-day thing.
So that's all done.
It's all done.
Perfect. Any questions on that? All right. That brings us up to, go ahead.
First off, I'm going to put on my class president hat real quick and just thank the board and Dr. Broderick for hearing out the proposal and consideration of the vans. It's like a huge help to us, passing on that $1,200 to the 30 some odd students going can have a huge impact on whether those students decide to go or not, so I appreciate it. To my report, I just wanted to highlight wrapping up the winter sports season. Boys varsity basketball team made it to the first round of playoffs. Tough loss to a really good St. Thomas team, but it's the best season they've had in well over a decade, so I think that speaks volumes in terms of the program growth and strength. Girls varsity basketball team finished their season in the second round of playoffs. They had a strong showing in an extremely defensive game against Stevens.
You could say that.
Highly defensive. And then spring sports are starting up, and I recommend you guys to go online and look at the schedule and see if you can catch any of the games, whether it's tennis, softball, baseball, or track and field. Recently, right before February break, we had Winter Carnival. I thought it was a huge success this year, looking at the dress-up days, because we do them based off class participation, like percentage-wise. I think every class was 15 to 20% above participation from last year, almost every day of the week. So I thought that was pretty impressive. Everything went well, I think, both competitive-wise and keeping everything friendly, and I think admin side, everything went well as well. The lip syncs were awesome to watch. It's just super creative to be up on stage for 8 minutes and have all of that choreographed. NHS just did their spring blood drive in partnership with the Red Cross. We were able to collect 19 units of blood, which is pretty good for the short day that we have with them here at the school. And then the class of 2025 is hosting a pancake breakfast this upcoming Sunday. It's from 7 to 10, and it's $8 a ticket. It's gonna be pancakes, sausage, bacon, different drinks and stuff. So if you're available, come support our class. And then lastly, Tri-M is celebrating their music in school month, which is the whole month of March. And they have dress-up days going on, and I believe they're hosting a dance as well.
Nice.
Can I make a suggestion on some of these, like, events like the blood drive or like your pancake breakfast? Can we get those like cross-posted to the other schools, please? Because I'm not on Facebook. I didn't know there was a blood drive. I would have come, like, if we can get that spread to like the rest of the community,
So for
maybe there'll be
for the
more.
blood drive specifically, that's only people
Oh, it's just
in the school. Yeah, it's
Oh,
the
okay.
majority of like upper class students and then
Okay.
some staff.
All right.
But with other stuff, I think that'd be good to see.
If that would, I mean, if we can bring in some other people.
Yeah, so any principal or other district administrator who is an administrator in the Thrill Share system has the ability to post across the schools. We can talk about that, for sure.
Are we putting this on the sign? The electric sign, the pancake breakfast on Sunday?
We can.
With that little video of steaming pancakes.
Yeah, exactly. Dancing, exactly. What, you playing tennis?
With blueberries or chocolate
Right.
chips.
Right, there you go. Chocolate chips all
right.
Yeah, just so I know, so I was up, that's something like this, we just had, the girls were practicing tennis 2 days a week now for the past couple of weeks, so it started. Anything else for Wyatt? Thank you, appreciate it. Next up in our packet is with the technology report, Mr. Dumont. Do we have any questions? I will say that the cybersecurity training is coming up for Primex. I've gone through that myself. It's a very good training. Heidi, do you know when the RFPs are due back in for the SIS system? Just wondering.
I think the end of this month.
Okay.
We had thrown about around a few dates, so.
Okay. Any other questions or on the technology report? All right. Assistant Superintendent's report.
Did you do maps?
It's right now. We're on it right now.
Yeah,
You're on maps or you're on mine?
Matt's.
Next.
Okay. Yeah, so Matt's out of town this week, and submitted his report ahead of time in writing. All things I think that are not new to any of you. Literacy committee continues. We sent a bunch of staff to Concord for 2 days for RTI, response to intervention training. We had PD here on election day, March 11th, with staff from all 3 schools. Matt shared the schedules with you. There's some more information here about what some of the curriculum development that's going on right now looks like. I had a chance to wrap up the day with all staff from all 3 schools and talk about my expectations around horizontal alignment. So once we have curriculum developed, ICANN statements, scope and sequence, and then lesson plans and assessments by grade level, we should be able to pretty well predict what's happening across that grade level also. It should not be the case that, let's say I have twin children and one is in one 3rd grade classroom and another one is in another 3rd grade classroom, or one has 9th grade English with this teacher and the other one has 9th grade English with a different teacher. It should not be the case that they're having substantially different experiences beyond the personal style and personality of those teachers. But the standards that they're being taught to, the basic lessons should all be about the same at around the same times of the year, so that when we assess, we can really gauge how all of our students are growing and learning.
Any questions in the packet that was provided? All right, seeing none, move on. Now we move to the superintendent's report.
So on mine, you had a chance to get rid of my first item if the new chair had asked anyone to join the Shared Services Committee. I asked about this last month also. I understand the plan. We've done it before. You let Debbie know if you're interested. Please, 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 would you consider 2 of you from each town, or 1 of you from each town, however you choose to do it, join the Shared Services Committee tonight, please, so that we can schedule a meeting within the next 2 weeks.
Can I just ask, what do you think, would it be a monthly meeting?
Good Lord, no.
What would that role entail?
I need to talk to you in the next month.
This is one of the ones.
After that, I can tell you what you need to do. Look at the original agreement. We've done almost everything that was in it. So it's time to decide if it's going to be a perpetually renewing, and there's renewal language in it. You are in automatic annual renewals right now. But if that's what it's going to be, strip out some of the specific language, I think, about we're going to do this and that and that and that, because it has things like date benchmarks and things. Again, we've done it. We've done that work. Get that out, simplify it, and make it a forward-looking, renewing however often you choose kind of agreement, and then decide how often to put together a committee to review it again in the future. So 3 meetings, maybe, and then a recommendation back to the full joint board.
And because we don't have time for the next meeting, we'll take, there's our people interested from each.
I will.
Okay, we have Eunice.
I'll do it.
All right, me, okay.
Who we got? Because 3 of you said
Eunice
yes.
and Eric?
1 more from Barnstone.
Well, hold on, I had 3 from.
Do you want to do it? I mean, I'll do it. I'd like to do it, but.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, you can do it.
You asked first.
Well, you said yes, I said okay.
So we have for new members, this whole SAU and other administrative system-wide consolidation is under a memorandum of agreement that the two boards agreed to. That document needs to be reviewed. So it is the place to talk about things like further consolidation, yes.
Okay, I'll be on it.
Do we have some Barnstead besides Eunice and Doreen?
Oh, it's two.
That's it?
I just think nobody else will get an opportunity. Yeah, that's all right. Eunice and Doreen.
Well, shouldn't we have all represented too?
Yeah, two of them.
Eric.
And Christie, right?
The rest.
We will be in touch tomorrow.
The rest we can wait
Thank
out
you.
to next month.
And then the other item I have, I'm going to ask you for a brief non-public under personnel tonight, but for the purposes of the professional staff renomination topic in my report. Some of you remember getting a copy of this from me every year in the past. Also, this is the law regarding professional staff renomination and reappointment. And that's it.
Sorry, wasn't paying attention.
Okay.
Anything else for the absent superintendent?
No, go ahead. I can hear.
Oh dear.
Any other questions for the superintendent under his presented? All right, see, no, we're moving right along. Okay, we're on to action items. The French 3 field trip to Montreal, Canada, which was given to us. You're looking for a motion on that?
I make a motion to approve the French 3 field trip to Montreal on 6/6 to 6/8.
Second?
Discussions on this?
Fabulous.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, okay, perfect. Okay, next is the out-of-state field trip to Paris, which we also, again, got a lengthy packet on that. So,
I make a motion to approve the proposed trip destination Paris to the French Riviera for 24-26 to 5/2/26.
Second?
discussion on that trip?
It's great that they do this.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
MOA Consortium Incentive Special Education.
If you haven't met Paul Borsch before, let me introduce you, please, to our high school special ed administrator, Paul Borsch. Hello. Who is here with a handout. Is it already handed out? Or do we have to pass it around? Has 4 numbered items to talk about a project that's been undertaken by the Lakes region of the State Superintendent's Association or Administrators Association over the last several months. The chairs of the 2 boards at the time, Ann and Jason, recently signed letters, and I signed one, and Paul signed it as district administrators, endorsing the idea of exploring a regional special education consortium. And the reason we signed those statements was so that the superintendent who's leading this for the region, Mary Moriarty at Interlakes, could communicate with the senator's office about trying to get some federal grant money to help fund such a project.
Known as earmarks.
So here's a little more information about what a special ed consortium is and why we are interested in pursuing the possibility. We are actually looking for your vote, if you're willing, on the memorandum of agreement, either now or in the future, which would not commit you to participating or taking any financial responsibility, but would simply mean that we're committed to being a part of the development of the idea. It's all yours.
Take a look at it through
Yeah.
the committee, yeah. So the special ed directors and the superintendents got together to discuss the difficulty that districts are having with securing out-of-district placements, transportation costs to those placements, and retaining related service providers. Currently, districts have a financial strain with contracted service providers. A lot of times we have to go to certain providers to contract with them to purchase related services. So that means like districts don't have their own employees to produce those services. Specialized transportation can become expensive, ranging from $300 to $500 a day per student. When you look at out-of-district placements, which are private schools, you're looking between $70,000 and $125,000. So what we're looking at doing is studying the feasibility of a centrally located program within the Lakes region to streamline our transportation services and facilitate cost-effective shared transportation, to be able to hire our own related service personnel, which makes us more self-sufficient and reliant and not reliant on contracted service providers, and to provide a local or alternative to out-of-district private placements. When you send a student to a private placement, out-of-district placement, you kind of lose the ability to control how you manage things, how you support the students. You're kind of at the whim of the out-of-district private placement. So we're looking just to see the feasibility of creating a centrally located program for those students to kind of keep them in their communities, streamline things, and be more in control of our costs.
Make a motion to approve MOA consortium for Lakes Region School Districts, special education.
Second?
Now it's open for discussion. People have questions,
I
concerns?
have a question. Are you making any effort to get more funding from the federal government for special education?
Well, not sure how.
It's more
long
my
it is.
department,
I mean,
yes.
It is. There's a lot of changes going on in the federal government right now. Yes, I know like Mary Moore already has sent letters to Jean Shaheen to see if she would support this and to help us out, see if they could find funding to help us with starting this up.
There are some states where this is really common. In fact, Paul and I have each worked in one where these are normal.
Like in New York, I worked at what's called the Board of Cooperative Education Services. And what it was counties would get together and create a BOCES, they were called, where students who had high intense needs would go. So it could be for students who have intellectual disabilities, who have behavioral, emotional disabilities, things like that. They were the most difficult kids. It also became a center for training for those counties. Also, it became a provider of services for those schools. So if you had two students with a specific disability and in one school district and another in another district, they were able to combine students to a classroom at a local school district. And then BOCES would support that classroom with one of their teachers. So the idea would be like you wouldn't have to open independent programs for each kid at one district.
I think it's great. I think it's a great way of sharing services to reduce the cost for everyone. I mean, even these costs for the out-of-district placement for 70 to 125, that's quite conservative, right? It can go upwards of that.
Okay.
That's
So-
about our budget part.
And it also, a lot of places, they don't include the related services in that bill. That's a separate charge, a separate contract.
In Massachusetts, they're called collaboratives. So north of Boston, you have SEAM Collaborative, Star Collaborative, Valley Collaborative. And in that format, the superintendents of the districts that are involved sit on a board of directors. So you have some governance control or a voice there. But I think the biggest thing, well, there are a lot of things. There's that, some voice or control over programming, the ability to develop and tailor programs to your actual needs. but the cost is lower too, because they have to cover their own costs. They have to break even, not turn a profit.
I think it's great.
I apologize if I didn't follow you correctly, but did you say that we would still continue to work under a contractual basis, or you would hire the people and pay salary and benefits?
So the consortium or that school would hire the people
So,
to serve within
and
that
so
school.
this would be our own consortium, then pretty much.
This would be a Lakes Region group, yeah.
A Lakes Region Group, and how many towns do you see encompassing in that?
Right now?
Yeah,
I
I mean,
would say right now we probably have 8 to 10
so,
easily.
so the cost would be split?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, all right.
Well, and typically what happens in the collaborative or BOCE model is we still pay on a per pupil basis.
Correct.
So if we have 2 students at a consortium school, but some other district has 8, we're responsible for a smaller share of cost.
Correct.
Than that other
Yeah,
district.
no, I understand the allocation of it, but I just wanted to make clear how that was going to work out as opposed to, because you talked about paying them, out of pocket or something, but I thought you had also talked about contracting, and I was hoping we were going that direction, because it would, in the long run, be more efficient, effective to take and pay contractually as opposed to.
The money we're looking for is just to study to figure out what's best.
This is
We don't
just
need
to
money right
study
now.
and
Yeah.
see what we can come up
Just-
with, yeah.
Just an
Yeah.
agreement,
It's preliminary.
just an agreement to explore it.
Yeah.
And after all of the boards of the superintendents and special ed directors in the Lakes region who are asking their boards this question, make this decision, we'll have a better idea how many districts and towns might be covered. But if a consortium actually ends up coming to fruition, it wouldn't be very surprising if some others who might be sitting this out right now go, ooh, now we're interested. We might like to be involved.
And as a follow-up to Eunice's, I am curious if there would be any federal funding, because normally a lot of federal money is usually provided for this.
And like I said, Mary Moriarty is looking into that
Yeah.
right now.
I know the government right now is unstable and not sure where anything is.
There's also
Yeah.
been a huge reduced amount for special education funding, so it's not a rosy outlook if I'm shaking the 8 ball.
Well, it's one of the signed the letter was because it was needed as support so they can go after, through the legislators, their senator, to ask to carve out some money so this could be done. That's why I am signing a letter for, at least for, Barnstead, just so they had schools that said that we want to kind of look, please, guys, carve out some money as we talk about this. That's what that letter was about.
Yep.
I'm just, my question is, I see this, that you're talking about preschool through 8th grade. We're at the high school. Why are we,
I think it's because we're still looking in and trying to see what the committee is looking at. And that's not to say it won't expand to high school.
okay.
This is just the beginning of the preliminary looking at the possibility of this consortium.
Even if it were just shared services, though, for like speech services and OT services, that would be a huge savings right there, to not have to contract, right? I mean, if you.
Well, you both have experience with this in the past, so what do you anticipate savings would be?
Oh, boy.
No, just.
So, all right, well, I'll give you a quick math version would be, if the typical out-of-district placement we're paying for right now, between, if you count the 3 components that can be part of an out-of-district placement, tuition, let's conservatively place that at $80,000 a year. Other services, let's say $20,000, and transportation, let's say another 80. Yes, same as tuition. I always say I try not to do math in my head, especially in public. $180,000. I mean, you could save half that money with something like this, conceivably.
Definitely just in
That's not
transportation,
outrageous.
you would save money on that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
just transportation now, we're finding it's more
Yeah.
expensive than tuition.
It's more expensive and it's more difficult to find because you have DHHS looking for transports for students, you have districts looking for transports for students, and it's getting very difficult.
one of the decisions a consortium school would have to make, or that the body creating it would have to make along the way, would be, would it run its own buses around the region, which would go directly to one of the major cost drivers we're facing right now in all of our out-of-district placements.
Any other questions? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes. Next up is the second and final reading of a bunch of policies that somebody needs to read.
I make a motion for the second reading and adoption of DAF, EBCH, GB, GBA, IC, IGE, IHAM, IKF, JIHB, JLCJA, JLF, JLP, and KFD.
Second?
So at our last
Sorry,
meeting,
could you repeat those?
I could.
at our last meeting, we have as first read, this will be the final read for adoption. Does people have questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, none, hearing none. Passes. Personnel, we said we're going non-public?
Yeah, I don't have a personnel report for you tonight.
Okay. Next up is public input for a second round. Kim says no. Okay, all right. Future agenda items and follow-up. So we're talking about the calendar, the next meeting. Public hearing, talking about, for us, assignments for reorganization.
We'll have calculated hours after our winter experience. We'll have the last day of school.
Okay, and that meeting will be April 15th?
Yep, April 15th. Any other follow-up items? Probably need to have a buildings and grounds meeting probably that day, only because it's winter spring and seeing how the fields are and stuff like that. So we can have a report.
Yeah, I figured either April or May, whatever.
Yeah, somewhere, yeah, it's either April or May, one or the other, yeah.
April's good.
Okay.
At 5:30.
What's that?
At 5:30.
Yeah, and we can keep the same people for now to go to that first meeting.
No, yeah, I just was,
And
I
then
forgot the time.
reorg afterwards, but yeah, 5:30, do buildings and grounds, just how the fields are looking, that kind of stuff.
Wet.
She already knows.
Other business? I only have one, and well, I'll just bring it up. The Devil social media just brought to my attention, there's some, again, I don't say negative post by our budget, but that's fine. But some stuff came about the superintendent that's pretty negative, pretty slanderous out there. As board members, we're elected, people say what they want about us, but as employees, sometimes it can be very dangerous what is said. But I just want the public to know, because what it was put out there was, anything that we find there's issues, we have our own attorney, we use our attorney for anything that comes up, including if the superintendent has done something. And we also have Department of Education where complaints go to, and happy to say that between our attorney and the Board of Education, nothing's come back as a ding on us. And so, the rumor mill out there, okay, just so you know, we use all those things as the board. Just want to put it out there. That being said, has somebody make a motion to go to non-public?
Make a motion to go into non-public?